Hi, welcome back to the course, and we are studying one more of the Carcassi studies. Now it's time to work on study number 17. Carcassi has wrote 25 studies in his opus 60, and often we only study 3 or 4 of them, but you should, I think every guitarist should work all 25, and I believe around 12, at least 8 are good for concert. Maybe you can arrange them in a set. Maybe you can play one or other in between two major works just to make some small refreshment. Maybe you can play them as an encore, but they are worth being heard, at least from I like to hear around 14 as concert pieces. But I know that some pieces may not like Carcassi as much as I do, but I believe at least 8 are very worthy hearing. And this 17 is one that very few people perform, and it's very interesting and it's very intense. Carcassi is part of that generation that started to invent what would the guitar like. They were the very first ones to develop the idiomatism on the classical guitar. Of course, the classical guitar has happened. It's an instrument that's much older than this instrument. We have registers, some sculptures that date from the Hittite Empire, which is around 14 BC, so around 1400 years before Christ. We had Modara in the 1530s, 1560s, published the first work for guitar. The classical guitar also developed a lot in Baroque France, but back then, with very few exceptions, like Roncalli, they wrote for the classical guitar not very differently than they wrote for recorders, at least for the listener's perspective. There were very few effects that only the guitar could make, like things like that only the guitar really do like that. Other instruments may mimic, may imitate, but like that only the guitar can do. Those are idiomatic features. And Carcassi was part of the generation that were developing the very first idiomatic features for the guitar. Here we have one of them. It was borrowed from the violin. That's true. Carcassi was a violin player as well. You may have heard lots of piano pieces, which, in order to achieve a fuller, rounder, more intense sound, the composer writes in parallel octaves. So it sounds brighter, stronger, rounder. The violin also does that, but because it's very hard for the violin to play parallel octaves, they do octave in phases. So instead of, which allows the bow to change strings easier. And Carcassi borrowed that from the violin. So we have here some octaves in phase, and we have moments which they doesn't configure a parallel intervals but harmonies. It's very important for you first to make some short analysis on when the two voices, the upper and the lower one, they are working in parallel intervals, and there are not only parallel octaves here, there are parallel thirds and parallelo sixths as well. Shorter, fewer, but also there are. So make sure to notice when we have in this piece parallelo intervals and when it's harmonies, because when we have parallel intervals we are going to play as if they were melodies. Sometimes the main melody will be on the bass, sometimes the main melody will be on the soprano. It won't be so hard to make the right differentiation, so I won't take much time on that, but it changes. And when there is a harmony, a clear harmony, that's when you're getting some sense of direction. Let me explain better. So we have at the beginning two measures of parallel octaves. So you're going to play just as melodies, and clearly the bass is most important here. So it's what's going on is, then we have our first harmony, and this chord is the E major, but it starts with an appoggiatura, C, B, and then we have the full chord. It's the dominant chord. This piece is A minor. Then we have the tonic, tone. Then the tonic changes to a dominant of the subdominant. Then we are going to, we have a passing note, but we are going to the subdominant, but with a passing note. Then tonic once more, dominant of the dominant, dominant, dominant of the dominant, 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 and tonic. So we have some measures that we are not sure, maybe tonic, but we're not that sure. Then we're going to dominant to the tension. So because we're going to the tension, so the direction is coming from the relief, from the calmness, which is not that calm because these parallel intervals are meant to sound triumphant, sound heroic, grandiose. And we are going to the tension, which should sound even stronger. So our direction is to go towards the tension, towards being even stronger. Then you're going to relieve. Then tension, release, tension, release, tension, tension, tension. Okay. So noticing also what harmony are going on, you have a better direction of the parallel melody, the melodies in parallel intervals. So we have analyzed the first phrase. Let's keep on going. We have, now we know that's clearly the tonic. Then once more dominant, tonic, which becomes dominant of the subdominant, subdominant with a passing note, tonic, dominant of the dominant, dominant with fourth, dominant, tonic. Then we start with a tonic relative. Clearly, once more tonic relative. Then we have some. Then we have here the G major, dominant of the tonic relative. Still dominant of tonic relative. Tonic, dominant of the dominant, dominant, tonic. Then we have dominant of the subdominant with ninth, then the subdominant with an appoggiatura, and then it's resolved. Then dominant, tonic, dominant of the subdominant, subdominant, dominant with 60th and 4th, dominant, tonic. And when we are going to the coda, number 2, it is still tonic, then subdominant of the subdominant with 9th, subdominant, tonic, dominant with 9th, tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant with 9th, tonic, dominant, tonic. Since I'm already here on the end, I have to tell you that it's very important for especially this last chord to sound very clear. So I recommend you to do this fingering which I played. F, A, D, jump, B, E, and then not only to make the position change easier, but mainly because with that fingering, all the open strings that you have played before will naturally be muted before you play the A minor. And it's very important for you to end with a very clear A minor without any open strings from previous chords that will cloud the harmony. Fine, great. One more thing that we have to discuss is the right hand technique, because every time we're discussing these intervals in phases, we have to discuss about right hand. Some people like to do this interval with thumb, and then they even alternate Y, I, and M. That can happen. However, if you focus the movement on the fingers, with time, you will be tired. Not the thumb. Here on the thumb we have some strong muscles and we can keep doing that for quite a long time. But especially on the M or on the I, it can tire your musculature. So it's best for you to aid, especially with your elbow. So instead of just doing everything with the finger, move your elbow. So it's not that you lock your fingers. You're going to move your fingers, but you move them shorter and keep most of the movement to be done with your elbow. I know at the very first time you're going to try that, you're going to feel insecure about playing the right string. Just work with a metronome, begin slowly, then go fast as you master each excerpt, and it will be okay, and you will be able to play that piece for hours and hours, for weeks and days, without harming your fingers, without feeling, without having any injury at all. So it's very important for you to have this movement, your elbow helping your fingers, because the more you use the larger and stronger muscles of your body for playing, so you can take off tension from the small little muscles. That's better. And that muscle here, wow, it's easy. Anyone, any child can raise 3-5 kilos easily with that musculature only. So that's a powerful muscle we have here. You can use them much more, this musculature, much more than this very small little muscles we have here on our fingertips. Right, one more thing to notice, there's a very important musical feature here. Carcassi is one of those composers, of the greatest composers that we still play, that uses phrasings that break the measure. So I'm coming from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 after letter B. So it begins with F. So this is where I'm playing. I'm beginning with F. Check what's going on musical. So we have F, G, then we have G, F, A. I'm going to play only the bass. C, and then pay attention. G, F, E, C. So we started with G, we went down 2 notes, and then we jumped to a C. Okay. What's a note just before G? F. See what he's doing next. F, E, D, B. It's the same pattern, but 1 step lower. And then what does he do next? E, G, C, A. It's still the very same pattern, 1 step down. So here, especially here, the beginning of the pattern is on the second beat. So the second beat should be stressed. So wow, Alvaro, but now you are not following the measure. That's right. And that's why 200 years later we are playing Carcassi's work. The work by a composer that followed the measure throughout the piece all the time, we are not playing right now because it's boring. It's very important to break the measure and to create unusual, interesting, and richer rhythms. That's why we are playing Carcassi and not the other guy. It's very important for you to recognize that and break the measure like Carcassi did. So, one more thing that you must be aware when working this piece, beware of reading mistakes, especially on section B. There are many times which the melody tends to come in parallel intervals but doesn't follow the parallel intervals, or times which the pattern is broken. So read calmly. For example, right in the beginning, C, G, E, F, G, A, G, C is not E, it's C, E. Yeah, that's C. So calmly read the piece throughout, note by note, okay? C, C, D, E, F, F, G, A, without metronome, calmly telling the notes down, so you can really make sure that you are playing the correct notes. That's it for now. I'm sorry, I'm recording from home. I don't know if you're going to listen to some mobile phone, but sorry for that annoying sound on the background. And enjoy that piece of music, and we'll see you in another video. Have fun.